even though masks may be required in classes, it doesn't fix everything, because we still have no social distancing and we still have issues with ventilation. And this variant is like a wildfire. If it gets into a classroom, it will spread very quickly.
Egbert, we're talking about other issues that are very important. There's also the issue of testing. We don't know what happens. You know, if there's a case, what happens? Who gets tested? Is there going to be rapid testing available in the schools? Do we have to quarantine the entire class? Do we have to quarantine the entire school? I mean, there are still a lot of outlying questions. We still have the carbon detector question that is clearly not resolved. So what would be a home run here for Jean-François Roberge today? How can he come out of this and just stem the tide of this horrible period he's going through?
Well, the one thing he has to be steady and very consistent on his mask. And once he gets beyond that, then we look at the ventilation issues in classrooms and social distancing. We are not going to end this pandemic, or we're not going to beat this virus just by getting vaccine. You just gotta do all the small things, all the cultural and social shifts, movements that you're going to make. You have to do it. And the one thing that's going to get us there to start with would be masking, would be social distancing, and of course the ventilation that the president just spoke about. We follow-ups in terms of tracing, contact tracing as a result of testing and those things. Those are attachments that's going to come with it. But we have to be consistent on the big picture.
Karim, Jean-François Roberge, this is no secret. The polling's clear. He is the CAQ's least popular minister. Yet the CAQ is still enjoying record levels of popularity. But still, okay, so far, nothing suggests there will be a major cabinet shuffle before the fall 2022 election. But what does he need to do? What does Roberge need to do to start turning things around?
As was already mentioned, people don't like change, and so the more often you change, the more likely you are to annoy people. It's one thing to say we're going to bring in strict measures, and then we loosen the measures, and then we bring in strict measures, and then we change colors of warning, and then it's a state of emergency, and then it's not. I think at some point we need consistency. I think we need to have somebody who's going to put a plan of action together, and it's easier to let up and loosen conditions when things are truly getting better than to continually tighten up, loosen up. And so I think his measures are going to have to be clear, make teachers feel safe, as was already said, make people understand that these measures are in place we need it for 3 months, then we're going to put them in place for 4.5 months. And so make sure that people understand that these rules will not change week to week or day to day. In fact, look, it's back to school period right now, and my daughter's going to university in a week, and she's not even sure which of her classes are in person or online, and I mean, that's higher education, but the same goes for elementary and high school students. Put measures in place, warn people well in advance, allow them to have a game plan, and they'll go with it. Teachers are amazingly adaptable. They work with children, for heaven's sakes. They have to be adaptable. So as soon as you tell them what the process is, let them work with that, because their ultimate goal is to educate the children. Keep them safe and educate them. Mm-hmm. But you can't keep changing the rules and have them adapting all over and over and over again. It cuts down on the quality of education, and overall experience will diminish. I mean, we'll see more and more teachers leaving the field, which would be a tremendous shame.
We'll have more on the Big Five with Karim Boulos and Egbert Gay, but first, let's check on your traffic from the CJAD 800 Traffic Center. Traffic is brought to you by Marché Acavan. Montreal's Iranian, Mediterranean, and Middle Eastern food emporium is open 8 to 4 Monday to Saturday, with 2 locations to serve you. Visit acavanfood.com. Good morning, Catherine Wood.
Good morning. Northbound to Cary, busy Côte St. Luc up. Southbound side's a bit thick at the top, and the 20 West still seeing extra volume on Grignon to Norman. Eastbound direction's doing pretty well, though. And eastbound 40, your busiest Côte de Lias to Stinson. Met West on and off Langelier to Cary. 13 South is thick Notre Dame out of Laval. 13 North from the 40 up into Laval. In from Terrebonne, we still have problems on the 25 South. You're really heavy from before the 640 to Ile Saint-Jean, where they've been dealing with a multi-vehicle accident. And on the outbound Champlain, there's left lane road work going on. Supposed to wrap up around 9:30. 9:30, but right now you're busy from before Nuns Island. If you're coming in from the South Shore, it's pretty smooth. At Sports Experts in Atmosphere, buy apparel, footwear, and bags at regular price and get a promo card up to $50. Details in store. Your next CJAD traffic report is at 9:30.
The top stories in the city. The Big Five on the Elias Macco Show.
David Hertel in for Elias, back with the Big Five with Egbert Gay and Kareem Boulos. Gentlemen, we stay with the schools. Story this morning, 900 teachers still missing throughout the province. There's a major labor shortage, especially elementary and high school teacher levels. What do we need to do? I mean, there's a labor shortage everywhere in every sector, every region in Quebec. But if we're talking about recovery, it's going to start with our schools. Kareem, what do you think we should do?
I'm fortunate to have been surrounded by many teachers throughout my life. I have an education degree. My sister's a teacher. My cousins are teachers. I have friends who are listening right now who are teachers. Teachers never got into this for the money. It's a calling. I think they got into this because they want to help children. They like working with children. They like to see the next generation improve. We have to improve their working conditions. Now, I know that the salary question was addressed in the spring. There's been a long overdue salary increase that was awarded to the teachers, and the unions negotiated successfully for it, which, again, I applaud them for. But the working conditions have to improve. It doesn't make sense that we should be begging for ventilation in a classroom. It doesn't make sense that teachers are begging for chalk and markers. Okay, there needs to be an environment in which the teachers can perform their jobs to the level that they feel is adequate to teach kids. No teacher I know wants to be teacher of the year, but they would love to have the pupil of the year. They want to see the success of their students, and I think that by giving them the resources to do so, you're going to attract people into this field. Because right now, it's very frustrating, very difficult work in a dangerous time. Parents maybe are out of control and they're difficult to deal with. I think if you let teachers teach, give them a place to do it, you're going to attract a lot more people to the field.
Egbert, what else do you think needs to be done? Is it a union problem, an access problem, a money problem? What has to be done? Because I think this is a real emergency. I know we're almost every day we're talking about crises, but this is a big deal, isn't it?
It is a big deal. It absolutely is at crisis level, and Kareem is 100% right. You've got to get the working conditions under control. But the most important thing is to get people in the field right now. And the one way to get the quickest pathway to deal with workplace shortages and in other professional arenas, the one easiest way is through foreign credential recognition. We have a whole lot of immigrants here that are sitting on workplace experience and on credentials earned in other countries who are quite capable to fill those gaps immediately. They need to be evaluated. The equivalency's got to get in place and get these people back into the workforce and make the best of the talent that you might have from your immigrant communities. That's what's needed. Get their French up to date, get the equivalency working, and recognize those foreign credentials and workplace experience. It's the one thing. Quebec can't keep fooling around. You're not going to train 900 teachers tomorrow or next week or by the end of the year. You're not going to do it. That's right. Get into your foreign base and look at look at the pool of people that you might have there with workplace experience and the kind of training that can go directly into the schools with the proper equivalencies.
Moving on to Montreal, Mayor Plante announcing that the city's state of emergency that was triggered by the pandemic is set to end Friday. And I got to be honest, I remember hearing that we were in a state of emergency in the city, but I didn't realize what that meant really. And so I looked it up. Thanks to our producer, Marissa Ramnanan, who helped me find this. The emergency order officially gave the city power to act quickly to take measures needed to combat COVID-19, such as creating emergency shelters to support the homeless and opening screening clinics, for example. So special powers, get over all the red tape, get things done much more quickly in terms of city services. That in bulk was what the emergency order gave the administration power to do. So Is it too early? Because, I mean, you have the Premier of Quebec saying we are in the midst of a fourth wave. We are not relaxing certain measures. We're talking about masking in schools, mandatory vaccinations. So, Egbert, is this too soon? Why is Mayor Plante doing this now? Because this is set to end this Friday.
Well, she stated the time when she put it in place that it was to get adequate resources to assist the homeless. That was the primary reason, the driving reason. But behind that, it also gave the police a lot of powers to close down non-essential business and to infringe on social gatherings, to impose fines here and there, and to get at people who are not self-isolating when they are ordered to do so. So you had a lot of attachments, which handed a lot of power to the police. So, I'm not sure that science is telling us that this might be the time to back off in terms of the state of emergency, but she stated that she wanted the powers in order to help the homeless community. So maybe she was able to do so. Maybe she was able to put in place the resources necessary. No telling, but it doesn't look good. I mean, the Delta virus is telling us that we need to go slowly in all the measures in terms of lifting restrictions.
Kareem, why is the city doing this? I'm wondering. Again, we talked about it with Jean-François Robert, but I'm seeing a political motivation here. What do you think?
A little bit. I agree with you, David. I think that there's a political motivation to make it seem that things are improving. And as Egbert said, or as you clearly stated, the state of emergency doesn't really affect the public. It affects the city's ability to act quickly. Now, anybody who's dealt with the city for anything knows how heavy and red tape laden the system is.
Oh, yeah.
So, for example, you want to open up a testing clinic, well, you have to get a change of use certificate. And if it's not allowed in a particular area, a change of use certificate can take up to 7 months to obtain. Okay, now, wouldn't it be lovely to think that we can do things in a matter of days or weeks as opposed to months? And that's what that power gives them. So to remove it now before the end of the pandemic, I think is just unfortunate. I think it's something that will come back to bite them, because if we do have a aggressive fourth wave, and we do need to set up more test centers, more vaccination sites with a third dose, more shelters for the homeless in what normally would not be a homeless shelter facility. They're going to have to go through the bureaucratic red tape or break their own bylaws. So again, I think it's possibly politically motivated with an election in November, saying that things are slowly climbing out and responsibility will be with the provincial and federal governments. But I don't think it's a very wise move. In fact, most Montrealers probably forgot. As you said, they had to look it up to see what it was about. It was really, it's an internal administrative mechanism to allow them to act efficiently. What a concept.
Yeah, but I would agree with you, Kareem. If we could get permits quicker and eliminate red tape, then you should keep
we should always be in a state of emergency.
Yeah, we should be in a permanent state of emergency.
You also have to keep in mind that police element, the powers that are given to police in any state of emergency is something that we want to keep an eye on.
Absolutely.
The point is, we would have the bureaucratic element of it, but the powers handed to police to infringe on people's rights, and that's a big part. That's why they say every 2 weeks they have to renew this.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. No, that's a very good point, Egbert, that we need to make sure that these special powers are kept in check and explained, and there's transparency, and because every time when there's special powers, history have shown us, that's where the excesses get taken advantage of. Let's just let it at that.
In little groups.
Yeah, there you go. Let's move on to Hydro-Québec and Lotto-Québec. It seems every few months or so, the Journal de Montréal does this. They give you a list of civil servants across the province of Quebec public administration. The list of civil servants that make over $100,000 a year. And so this morning, they're talking about specifically Hydro-Québec and Lotto-Québec, which have seen a huge increase of employees and executives with a base salary of $100,000 or more a year, making that much money. So here here in Quebec, I mean, $100,000 is considered a big salary, especially when you look at the average worker in the province makes about $45,900 per year. Minimum wage went from $12 an hour to $13.50 an hour. What do you make of this? I'll start with you, Kareem. Is this a fair criticism? Or is there a disconnect between what public service employees are making and what the average worker is making?
Well, I think it's a multifaceted problem because, the question begs to be asked, right? Should minimum wage be increased in order to gradually allow more people to have a better quality of life without driving inflation too high? So yes, minimum wage should be increased. We keep hearing the magic number of $15. But what the pushback from most small business owners is, if my minimum wage employee is bumped up by so much money, then my middle range and then my senior employee also gets bumped up. What we've noticed in the past, and what the media has done a good job at shedding a spotlight on, is that the higher range positions and the executive positions have benefited from these increases, but not the entry level, certainly not the part-time level, and even middle management has been kept relatively stable. Okay, now, if you're making $60,000 in Quebec, you should be happy. You're above the average, right? But if you're, making $100,000, I don't understand how you can justify $120,000. The Quebec government says the SAQ, Lotto Quebec, Hydro-Quebec are cash cows. They generate tons of profit every year. And so it's a function of how well the business, quote unquote, performs, which justifies why leadership gets paid more, because you want to attract the best managers to run, blah, blah, blah. Right? But at some point, the whole system has to improve. For society to be successful and for society to thrive, everyone's got to be given a shot at having a better life, starting with the entry-level employees all the way through. So the gap widening is not a good sign. I don't agree that the gap should widen. Definitely the overall structure should increase proportionately, and which is not happening right now.
Egbert, isn't there an economic argument, and we're seeing it now? Look, we just said we're missing 900 teachers. And I'm sure one of the reasons that is dominant in the reason why people are not going into teaching or leaving teaching is the fact that a teacher starting salary is around $50K, and it's and the top of the top salary I think is around $80, and that's after years and years and years. So and if you go in the healthcare system, there's same types of discrepancies between doctors and the rest of the healthcare professionals. So isn't there something that needs to get done, and we need to transform the way we value certain professions?
Yeah, that's true, but I think for us, the most immediate thing is to deal with people who are working 40, 50 hours a week and are still the working poor. Those are the people we have to start with. Yeah. We start with those people who are making 12, 13, whatever dollar an hour they call minimum wage, and look to get this minimum wage not to $15 as we've been calling for the last 10 years, but up to $20, $25 an hour, so people can come out of that group that's known as the working poor. Good. And once we get, the challenge is not so much about looking at how much people make at the top. That's not the worry. The thing is, let's lift those who are working and struggling and cannot have a decent living wage. We have to concentrate on the living wages. Universal
basic income. That's the key.
We might be talking about that. We might be looking, what is that universal basic
I got to leave it at that, but definitely a subject for another Big Five for sure. Political analyst Kareem Boulos, thank you so much. Egbert Gay, always a pleasure. Founder and editor of Montreal Community Contact. Great Big Five. Now time to go to Trudy Mason and your CTV News Update.
Missed it live? You can check out the Big Five podcast on the iHeartRadio app and all major podcast platforms.
Good morning. It is 9:30. I'm Trudy Mason with a CTV News update. A Montreal police officer was injured early this morning when shots were fired near the MUHC Glen site in NDG. Whether her arm injury was caused by a bullet or a scramble to take cover isn't yet clear. The province will update its back-to-school plan this afternoon. There are reports masks will be required in classrooms in many regions after all. There will also be a briefing this afternoon on Quebec's vaccination passport. And a study finds breast cancers that are fueled by estrogen hormones may also be stimulated by high levels of cholesterol. The researchers say pending further study, cutting dietary cholesterol is a good idea, as is using cholesterol-reducing drugs in some cases. With the latest from the CJAD 800 Traffic Center, here is Catherine Wood.
Inbound Mercier Bridge, we have an accident in the 138 on-ramp. You're seeing some slowdowns as you go to board. Inbound Champlain's doing fine, but outbound you're still busy from before Nuns Island. There's some road work going on in the left lane. 30 west slows between the 112 and Highway 10. In from Terrebonne, finally cleared that accident. 25 south at Ile Saint-Jean, still busy though from the 640. 13 north holds you back before the 40 into Laval. Met west is sluggish on and off Lac-Cordaire to Décarie. Eastbound 40 slows around Décarie Circle, and northbound Décarie busy from before Côte Saint-Luc up. The 2021 Chevrolet Silverado diesel comes with the confidence of being the #1 truck in its class, according to the Car Guide. Details at your Chevrolet dealer. Traffic and transit every 15 minutes on CJAD 800. Next report, 9:45.
Your Dormez-vous Weather Center forecast. Clearing skies this morning. Our high today, 31 degrees. The humidex, 38. Tonight, few clouds, a low of 21. Tomorrow, mainly sunny, a high of 33, a humidex of 40. And the outlook for Thursday, clearing, a high of 30. In Montreal right now, 26 degrees with the humidity. That feels like 35. Your next CTV News update is at 10 o'clock.
Breaking news, expert opinion, The Elias Macco Show.
What do you want to see the Quebec Liberals do for Anglophones? We have the new English language critic for the Liberal Party next.
The Elias Macco Show, brought to you by The Brick, saving you more on furniture, mattresses, appliances, and electronics.
At Subway restaurants, our breads have risen to every occasion for over 30 years. And now, we're raising our bread game. We've stepped up our 13-step baking process and improved our recipe for more taste and texture in every bite of our freshly baked bread. Because better bread makes a better sandwich. Try our new better tasting multigrain and Italian breads today on the all-new Great Canadian Club. Subway, eat fresh. Freshly prepared per order, Great Canadian Club is made with Canadian farm-raised turkey and pork. Limited time at participating restaurants.
Hello, I'm Richard Lapointe of CIBC Wood Gundy. Investing is not without risk. I know you know that. But investing on your own carries more risk than you should have to bear. There's nothing wrong with independence. In fact, it's what I want for you. The financial independence that comes from worry-free investing through a licensed professional advisor who has your best interests at heart. Call me. I'm Richard Lapointe, and I can always be reached at 514-847-6324.
CIBC Wood Gundy is a division of CIBC World Markets, Inc., member of CIPF and IROC.
With the It Pays to Be Vaccinated contest, your COVID-19 vaccination could pay off big time. Every Friday in August, you could win $150,000 and 2 scholarships of $10,000. Plus, if you've had both shots September 3rd, there's a draw for 16 scholarships of $20,000 and a jackpot of $1 million. Register now for the It Pays to Be Vaccinated contest at quebec.ca/vaccination contest. The sooner you're vaccinated, the faster you can take part. A message from the Gouvernement du Québec.
Renovco Renovations is celebrating 20 years in business. That's 7 consecutive Consumer Choice Awards, 3 consecutive years as one of Canada's fastest growing companies, 2 years of West Island Chamber of Commerce Excellence in Business Awards, and more. And it's all thanks to you. Renovco's been doing it all for 20 years. Home renovations, fire and flood restoration, decontamination, and beyond. And thanks to your trust and their expertise, they are Montreal's leader in home renovation and restoration. Renovco.com.
When your business needs change, the Podium Mini Entrepot is here to help with affordable storage solutions at a convenient location near you. They make it easy to get started. Shop local, store local. First 4 weeks free. Visit thepodium.com.
Brick by brick by brick. Teams compete to build the impossible. Will Arnett hosts Lego Masters, all new tonight at 8, only on CTV. Then stream anytime.
It's your turn. Have your say. The Elias Macco Show. Call 514-790-0800. Text 514-800.
David Hertel in for Elias. I was so excited about having the new English language liberal critic David Birnbaum on that I said, okay, he's next. No, he's not next. He's coming up after we hear from you. Because so the Liberals in Quebec have had a very hard time balancing their obvious position on French, which they're trying to be more nationalist. They're trying to garner some support. I mean, certain polls have put the Liberals at around 7% support with the Francophones in Quebec, but yet at the same time, they have not been defending vigorously, according to a lot of people, the Anglophone community in Quebec, especially with Bill 96. We're going to have the hearings starting at the end of September, going through till October on Bill 96. The bill is going to go through this fall, most probably, unless something goes horribly wrong. The CAQ has a majority. They can definitely pass the bill by the end of the fall session. So Bill 96 is definitely going to be a reality. So I'll be speaking with David Birnbaum about the Quebec Liberal strategy on language and what he plans to do as the new Liberal critic for the Anglophone community. What does he plan to do? What do you want him to do? What questions would you have for him? I want to know on the phone, 514-790-0800, or on the text line, 514-800. That's going to be very important because right now we're not talking a lot about language. We had yesterday the Quebec Community Groups Network president Marlene Jennings on, and Marlene was saying on the federal side, nobody's talking about language. They're not getting any type of response from either the federal Liberals, the Conservatives, the NDP. They're not touching the issue. The Bloc is having trouble to generate any type of excitement on the issue, but this will be one of the key issues of the fall. And we're going to need to understand what the Liberals are going to do. I remember when Aaron Rand was asking questions on his show, is the Quebec Liberal Party still the answer for Anglophones? That was the question. And for you, is the Liberal Party of Quebec still your party? The remaining seats that they have, the 20 some odd seats that the Liberals still have in Quebec, they're basically almost all of them, with one exception, which is in Gatineau, Andre Fortin, which is in Pontiac, which is in the Ottawa region. Aside from that, all the Liberal seats are in the Montreal area. It's on the South Shore, it's on Laval, and it's on the island of Montreal. That's it. The Liberals have no seats east of Montreal. None. And they have no seats on the North Shore. They have just a couple of 2-3 seats left on the South Shore. That's it. So how are the Liberals going to rebuild with the Anglophone community? The Anglophone community is the base. Let's face it, the Liberal Party right now has very few bases left. And one of the key bases is the Anglophone community. So what do the Liberals need to do? What kind of questions would you like to ask David Birnbaum? He's the MNA for Darcy McGee. That's Côte St. Luc. What should the Liberals be doing with the coming hearings? What's going to happen with Bill 96? What's going to happen with Bill 21 and the court challenges with Bill 21? What kind of opposition do you want to see the Liberals generate to what the CEQ is doing. On the text line, I remember on the afternoon program, so that would be with Aaron and Natasha, in an interview, Dominique Anglade, the Liberal leader, trying to convince me that no one knew how to speak French downtown, which I know not to be true, having worked there for several years. It's one thing to address a problem, it's another to make one up. And that just turned me off. That from Steve and LaSalle. Thank you for the text. I understand the feeling, but how do you balance that? The fact is that the Francophone community is definitely going to be concerned about French in Montreal. That's for sure. I mean, that's where the bulk of the immigration comes to, rather, in Montreal. I mean, 70% of all immigration in Quebec comes to Montreal. And they don't all speak French. And so there has to be a better job about integration. There has to be a better job about regionalization of the immigration. Get the immigrants in the regions. Need more resources in companies, in the workplace to learn French. There needs to be a balance. On the text line again, I want Birnbaum to explain how he sat back while he was in M&A in several Liberal governments and did literally nothing to secure Anglo rights. What does he say to Anglo voters who voted for him? And while there is a decimation of Anglo rights, what can he possibly do now if he didn't bother to do it when he was in M&A? He's still in M&A. Cecilia, I just want to say, he is in M&A. The Liberals are obviously no longer in power. He was elected for the first time in 2014. And I served with him, actually, from 2014 to 2018 in the Liberal government of Philippe Couillard. And then he was reelected in Darcy McGee, and he's still serving as the MNA. So just want to rectify that, Cecilia. Another texter, Liberals sold out the Anglophones for nationalist votes, and now they're going to end up with less seats, not more. Well, I don't know if they sold out. Honestly, I don't know if they sold out because the Francophones sure aren't voting for the Liberals. In 2018, during the election, I mean, it was one of the lowest. Actually, it was the lowest percentage of Francophone votes in the Liberals' 150-year history. So the nationalist message is clearly not working on the Francophone side. And from what I hear from your texts, 514-800, it's not working on the Anglo side as well. Love to hear your take on this at 514-790-0800. Another text, why do you have the Liberals on your show? Are your Liberal supporters using your show to give the Liberal Party free airtime to promote their communist garbage? Your bias is very obvious. Really? I'm just following the news. There's a new Liberal, Quebec Liberal, and I just want to make sure we're talking about the Quebec Liberal Party. I'm not talking about the Federal Liberal Party, first of all. Two, the Quebec Liberals name a new English language critic. That's news. That was announced on Monday. So this is a new critic, and so I think it's newsworthy to have him on to see what he plans to do. And what I'm asking you, actually, is what you need to ask him. I'm not here to promote the Liberals. I'm not a member of the Liberal Party of Quebec. I don't promote the Liberal Party of Quebec. I'm an analyst. I'm looking at all the parties. But the fact is that in Montreal, if you look at the West Island, Laval, the South Shore, the Liberal base, that's where the Liberals have their seats, their remaining seats. And that's where the bulk of the Anglophone community is. And so I think it's interesting to hear about what the new Liberal critic on language has to say about what the Quebec Liberal Party has in terms of strategy for the coming parliamentary session with Bill 96 and the issue of language. That's why I'd love to have your calls at 514-790-0800 on the text line 514-800. But first, let's check on your traffic from the CJAD 800 Traffic Center, brought to you by Metropolitan Rust Roofing. Last chance to take advantage of their $20 summer special off a complete rust proofing treatment. Metropolitan Rust Roofing, a smart investment that really pays. Here now is Catherine Wood.
Looking at the westbound 40 in the West Island, it's slowing now from Sources over towards St. John's. After that, it opens up. Eastbound 40 busy, Côte de Lias to Stinson, and the Met West slows on and off from before Lac-Cordaire to Carrie. Northbound to Carrie, still seeing volume Côte St. Luc up, and the southbound side is thick off the top to Plamondon. 20 east before the Angrignon exit. Watch out for a stalled semi off to the right. Outbound Champlain's holding you back from before Nuns Island out to the South Shore. Inbound Mercier, they're working on an accident in the 138 on-ramp, so you're slowing from before the 207. Up north, Laurentian Autoroute southbound still really heavy through Prévost after a vehicle caught fire earlier this morning. 13 south slows before Notre Dame, northbound from the 40. Super savings this week at Super C. Enjoy 12 corn on the cob at the incredible price of $1.98 only until Wednesday, only at Super C. Next report, 10 o'clock.
This Friday on Chatter That Matters with Tony Chapman, presented by RBC.
Terry O'Reilly is the host of Under the Influence. It's one of the top podcasts and radio shows in North America. Terry gives his listeners a rare backstage pass into life, and this week I turned the tables on Terry to get a backstage pass into his life.
I could easily trip myself up by being too ambitious in my ideas.
Chatter That Matters with Tony Chapman, presented by RBC. Friday at noon, right here on News Talk Radio CJAD 800.
Renavco is celebrating 20 years in business. Thanks to your trust in their expertise, they are Montreal's leader in home renovation and restoration and have been for 20 years. Renavco.com.
Until the 14th of September during the Rendezvous Air France, listen to all the magic of a first rendezvous. It's time to book your rendezvous with Paris, starting at $759 or Venice starting at $890 return. From Montreal, tax included. And with Air France Protect, our tickets are 100% changeable or refundable up until the day you fly. Travel from the 16th of October 2021 to 6th of May 2022. Some blackout dates apply. See conditions at airfrance.ca.
An alfalfa kiwi kale smoothie can pump up your energy. A good pair of lungs can pump up your air mattress. And a little flattery can pump up your confidence. Oh, you. But if you want to pump up your savings, you'll need to get in on Journey Rewards. With Journey Rewards, you save 7 cents a liter when you fill your tank at a participating Ultramar. Plus, save 3 cents per liter on every fill-up when you pay with your Link CIBC card. Visit a participating Ultramar station and join Journey Rewards today to pump up your savings. Program terms and conditions apply. Visit journey.ca for more details.
Nissan, where shall I go in Quebec this summer?
Well, with the Qashqai, it can be anywhere.
I need to get away from it all.
With lots of cargo space, Apple CarPlay, and Bluetooth, you can get away for a long time.
But where?
Well, start by going to your Nissan dealer.
Oh, monsieur has lots of humor.
Ah, madame has lots of drive.
I do.
Rediscover your drive and lease the front-wheel drive Qashqai S starting at $59 a week for 60 months. From August 4th to 31st, $257 a month, retail value of $24,063 on approved credit. Details at Nissan.
And now, a typical reaction from someone experiencing a big-ass fan for the very first time. Oh, baby, is it cool in here, or is it just me? Get a super refreshing, whisper quiet big-ass fan. Go to bigassfansradio.ca. Complete a quick big-ass online survey for a cool prize and surprise. Oh, yeah.
Oh, according to research, 82% of people remember radio ads. That means that 82% of you listening right now will remember that this is an ad for ZipRecruiter. If you're hiring, 82% of you will recall that ZipRecruiter makes hiring faster and easier. And 82% of you will note that you can try ZipRecruiter for free today. But you have to go to ZipRecruiter.ca/save. 82% of you will keep in mind that ZipRecruiter's technology finds qualified people for your job and actively invites them to apply.
Scott, is that you? Who are you talking to?
82% of you will also know that I, live with my mom. But the most important thing to note is that ZipRecruiter works. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Will you be part of the 82% who remember where you can try ZipRecruiter for free? It's ZipRecruiter.ca/save. Again, that exclusive link is ziprecruiter.ca/save. That's ziprecruiter.ca/save.
It is super hot, so Tim's has come up with the perfect solution. Our new real fruit quenchers, made with real fruit juice from concentrate. They come in 2 delicious flavors, peach or our strawberry watermelon.
Wow, that is thirst quenching.
New this summer at participating restaurants.
From the terrifying mind of Stephen King.
Father, are we safe here?
In the town of Preacher's Corners, Maine, there stands a house where evil never dies. Chapelwaite, new series Sunday at 10 on CTV Sci-Fi Channel. Time for your take on this morning's hot topic. Call Elias at 514-790-0800 or text 514-800.
David Hertel in for Elias. Before I get back to your texts and your calls on language and the Quebec Liberal Party, just want to announce that at 10:35 we'll have Mayor Plante on. So we'll be talking state of emergency. We'll definitely be talking about elections and other situations going on with the city. We'll talk transit. We'll talk about the REM. We'll talk about a slew of topics. And if you do have questions for Mayor Plante, I'd love to hear them as well.
Bring it on.
Bring it on, yeah. Mayor Plante is bringing it on. So we're going to have Mayor Plante at 10:35, and after we'll have Nadine Joly. Now, maybe that's not a name you know, but Nadine Joly was announced yesterday by Denis Coderre as his number 2. If Ensemble Montréal and Denis Coderre are elected in Montreal, Nadine Joly will be the chair of Montreal's executive committee, making her the number 2 politician in the city. And so Nadine Joly, who was up until now the president of the Quebec Video Game Guild, which is basically representing the entire video game industry in Quebec. And she was involved in cultural organizations, La Vitrine Culturelle, for example. She has a lot of experience in tourism. So we're going to have back to back, basically the two top female candidates in this election. Mayor Plante, of course, for Projet Montréal, and Nadine Joly, who is running. She'll be running out of Ile-de-Sur, actually, in the coming municipal election. So it'd be great to talk with Mayor Plante, especially about this state of emergency being lifted in Montreal during a fourth wave. It'd be interesting to see her reasoning behind that and what the next steps are in terms of dealing with this fourth wave from a Montreal point of view. So if you have any ideas of questions, I have a ton of questions for her, but if there's a question you want to ask Mayor Plante, please let me know on the phone 790-0800 or on the text line 514-800. A lot of texts about the Quebec Liberals and language. I have a texter writing, the provincial Liberals are finished in Quebec. Hopefully every province in Canada. They're barely holding on federally. Good riddance. Okay, so we know where that texter stands. The 2 most important and most offensive notions that need to be purged by Bill 96 are any provision that creates a distinction between historic Anglophones and all English speakers, any Quebec-sponsored amendment to the Canadian Constitution that doesn't at least counter Quebec nationhood and official unilingualism with a clause obliging Quebec government to protect and promote minority and individual rights and freedoms. I will never vote for the provincial Liberals again if they don't rectify their shameful stand on the protection of minorities in Quebec. This flirtation with Quebec nationalism will not gain them any seats in CAQ, PQ, PUC country. So another texter, Mark in NDG, thank you for identifying yourself and say where you're from. So Mark in NDG, which is right next to David Birnbaum's seat, the Quebec Liberal Party should be punished for abandoning their core principles and their loyal non-Francophone voter base by losing their safe Montreal region seats, throwing non-Francophones and religious minorities under the bus, and they've done done will not win them additional support or seats among Francophone voters, guaranteed. The only thing that will is sticking to their traditional pluralistic values and trying to educate moderate Francophones, waiting for the pendulum to swing back to tolerance and for the current stigma of being associated with minorities in Quebec to die down. Thank you, Mark in NDG. Now, moving to the mayor. Now, what should we be talking about with the mayor? Ask the mayor. No, you know what? I will not ask her that, and I will not mention that. That's not a very nice question. I thought I missed that very quickly. No, I'm not going to ask that question. I won't even mention it on air. Kenneth on the phone. Good morning.
I'd like to ask Valerie Plant something. Is she there right now?
No, she's not there right now. She'll be there at 10:35. What do you want me to ask her?
Ask her to look into the modern versions of the Mongolian yurt homes. In the States, they're up to 3 stories tall.
Yeah.
You don't need big cranes and all that to assemble them. Sometimes you can assemble a home in one day or 1 week. They're very efficient in energy and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And also, there used to be more activity of Habitat for Humanity in Quebec, but the unions would intimidate the people who were helping to build homes.
So
but Ontario
I'm
has
sorry.
gone ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Finish your thought.
Ask her about the homes, like changing the technology of the building construction.
Got it.
And also, like Habitat for Humanity, which is has no problems in Ontario. But here you got the union saying, hey, you can't volunteer to build a house.
So you're talking about this from the angle of more housing and especially low-cost housing, right?
Low-cost housing, but even very large structures at very low cost.
So you think we could build yurts? Is that it? Like Mongolian yurts in Montreal?
Well, they're doing it in Montana. California is thinking of doing them because they can withstand the extreme winds. They're very efficient energy for heating and cooling. They're all in our provincial parks and also in the U.S. And if you look up Deltec Homes, they're putting a home up in like 1 week, and you don't need a crane to assemble the thing.
You know what? That's very interesting, Kenneth. I really appreciate the call because in terms of housing, it's true that we seem to be stuck in the same vicious circle about, okay, these major housing complexes cost a lot of money and we turn to promoters to try to force them to build low-cost housing. But maybe we could turn to different or alternative ways of building housing. Maybe that's the way to go. But I'll definitely talk to Mayor Plante about housing and what the solutions are, because this was a major part of her platform. Looking at housing and how we could get community housing, low-cost housing going in Montreal. But in the last 4 years, got to say, not that many units have been built compared to the goals that she had set during her 2017 campaign. And to be fair, it's not all her fault. The fact is that when you are the mayor of a large city, you definitely have to depend on funding from the provincial government and also depend on funding from the federal government. Now, the provincial government and the federal government are saying, oh, yeah, we're going to give some funding, but you make nice announcements during election campaigns, but that doesn't mean right after the announcement that the construction begins. And that's really the problem right now with housing, is that the funds aren't there to get to these lofty goals that we have, which are just necessary goals. They're not even ambitious. That's what is needed in a city like Montreal. So we'll definitely talk about this with Mayor Plante. Thank you so much for all your text and your calls. Interesting conversation. I'm getting an education as a Francophone, getting for your text. I see there's a lot of anger there with the Quebec Liberal Party. It's something I didn't see when I was an M&A. I'm seeing there's a lot of issues there that need to be discussed, and we'll definitely talk about them at 10:20 with Liberal M&A David Birnbaum. But after your CTV News update with Trudy Mason, we'll be talking inflation with a specialist. You're seeing the cost of living that's rising. We'll talk to an economist about the situation and if it will last longer than each of us hope it will not. But first, let's go to your CTV News update with Trudy Mason.
The Elias Macco Show, brought to you by The Brick, saving you more on furniture, mattresses, appliances, and electronics.
During the past year, we've been living in the present and making decisions day by day. Now is the time to stop, take a deep breath, and start to plan ahead in order to provide peace of mind to our family and loved ones. At Mount Royal Commemorative Services, we can help. Our 3 locations serve the city, from the Belvedere Cemetery and Funeral Complex in the west to the Cimetière et Complexe Funéraire des Trambes in the east, and of course the historic Mount Royal Cemetery and Funeral Complex in the heart of the city. Online at mountroyalcem.com.
This newscast brought to you by Metropolitan Rust Proofing. Last chance to take advantage of their $20 summer special off a complete rust proofing treatment. Metropolitan Rust Proofing, a smart investment that really pays.
Good morning. It is 10 o'clock. I'm Trudy Mason with your CTV News update. Another hot and sticky one ahead. Clearing skies this morning, a high of 31 degrees, the humidex 38. The weather details are coming up in minutes. In Montreal right now, 26 degrees, and here is what is making news. Looking for answers about the back to school and the Vax passport. A cop injured as shots ring out near the Glen. And Justin Trudeau prepares for the G7. With the latest from the CJAD 800 Traffic Center, here is Catherine Wood.
And right now on the eastbound 40, we have volume Côte de Liesse to Stinson. 40 west, you're slow from Sources to St. John's. Met west on and off Lac-Cordaire to Carrie. Northbound to Carrie has volume Côte St. Luc up. Southbound side bunches up at the top. Inbound La Fontaine Tunnel, seeing volume on and off from Montreville to the 40. 13 south is a bit thick Notre Dame out of Laval. Northbound from the 40 to the Bisson Bridge. And up north, Laurentian Autoroute northbound. Really busy from Monte-Sainte-Thérèse through to Prévost because of construction. All aboard the REM. Be the first to get on board. We'll see you at the Quartier 10-30 from August 26th to 30th. For more information, visit rem.info. Traffic and transit every 15 minutes on CJAD 800. Next report, 10:15.
In the news, the questions of parents, students, business people, and others should be answered this afternoon when the Legault government holds news conferences on 2 COVID-related topics, the back-to-school plan and the incoming vaccination passport.
An announcement by the Education Minister and Director of Public Health is scheduled for 1 o'clock this afternoon. Both are expected to announce that kids in some regions will have to wear masks inside the classroom. It comes on the heels of the EMSB contemplating a similar rule as back-to-school approaches. Heidi Yetman is the president of the Quebec Provincial Association of Teachers.
School boards are struggling. They're wondering what they should be doing. And this is typical of this government. It's always last minute.
Also up this afternoon, the health minister will answer lingering questions of how the vaccine passport program will work. That program goes into effect September 1st. The news conference will begin at 3 p.m. Billy Shields, CTV News.
A Montreal police officer suffered a minor injury to an arm when she and her partner were startled by the sound of shots fired near the MUHC's Glen site early this morning. Whether the officer was actually grazed by a bullet isn't yet clear. The hospital was locked down for nearly 3 hours as police searched in vain for the shooter or evidence that a gun had been used. The hospital says the ongoing investigation has part of the complex on the Saint-Jacques Street side off limits, and there may be delays in some services today. On the campaign trail, Liberal leader Justin Trudeau says a re-elected Liberal government would help renters become homeowners through $1 billion in loans and grants. During an election campaign stop in Hamilton, Ontario, Trudeau said the money would help develop rent-to-own projects with an array of partners, creating a pathway to home ownership for renters in 5 years or less.
We'll help you buy your first home sooner. We'll get you to a down payment faster with a plan worth tens of thousands of dollars when you buy your first home, and the launch of a new rent-to-own program.
The Liberals say their plan would allow Canadians under 40 to save up to $40,000 toward their first home and withdraw it tax-free to put toward their purchase with no requirement to repay. Trudeau will take time away from his campaign today to join other G7 leaders for virtual talks about Afghanistan. Canadian press reporter Terry Pedwell says Trudeau has faced criticism for moving too slowly to rescue Canadians and Afghan citizens who helped Canada carry out its military mission in Afghanistan.
The Liberal leader has been slammed for calling an election just as the Taliban was washing across Afghanistan in a return to power that has shocked the world. As Canada joins the effort to evacuate those considered at risk from Taliban retributions, it's not clear whether Trudeau will join other leaders in calling for an extension of the August 31st deadline for American troops to complete their withdrawal from Kabul.
As the deadline approaches, many Afghans who worked for Canada or for media outlets covering the Canadian mission are complaining that this country's immigration department has gone silent over their applications for special visas that would allow them to be airlifted to safety. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at CJAD 800. Your Dormevu Weather Center forecast. A heat warning remains in effect through Thursday. Clearing skies this morning. Our high today 31, the Humidex 38. Tonight, few clouds, a low of 21. Tomorrow, mainly sunny, a high of 33 with a Humidex of 40. And the outlook for Thursday, clearing, a high of 30. In Montreal right now, it is 26 degrees with the humidity. That feels like 35. For all the news during the day, stream us on your smart speaker. Just say play CJAD 800. Your next CTV News update is at 10:30.
Adopted pets bring us comfort, joy, and unconditional love. But every year, over 100,000 dogs and cats in Canadian animal shelters are waiting to find their forever home. The Royale Home for Every Pet project is a way for you to help. When you buy $20 of Royale products, Royale will reward you with a $5 Royale coupon and donate $5 to participating animal shelters. Help find a home for every pet. Full details at royale.ca/pets.
If it's news to you, it's important to him. From now till noon, stay connected. Here's Elias Makos, CJAD 800.
Welcome back. David Hertel in for Elias. Canada's inflation rate has reached its highest it's ever been in the past decade. This influenced an uptake in the price of gas, housing, vehicles, and a lot of other products. What does this mean for Canadians? Will it be getting better anytime soon, or are we in this for the long haul? Joining us, Kyle Doms, economist, excuse me. I'm getting all tripped up here. He's an economist at the National Bank. Kyle, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Hi, how's it going?
Doing well, thanks. So maybe tell us what the situation currently is, because everybody's talking about the cost of living going up. Is this a mirage, or is this the real thing?
Well, it's definitely the real thing, and actually it's surprised economists 3 out of the last 4 months. So the last headline inflation print came out at 3.7% on a year-over-year basis, which was quite strong. And like you said earlier, it was the highest since 2011. And actually for Quebec, it came out at 4.1% year-on-year, which was the highest since 2003. So we're obviously looking at elevated levels of inflation right now.
So you're telling me that economists didn't see it coming, or they're surprised by this? Why is this surprising?
Well, I think the pandemic situation has caused a lot of us to reevaluate our models, right? Because in normal times, a recessionary period, or at least a period with lower growth, would lead to lower inflation, which we saw in 2020. But I don't think we were expecting as much of an increase going forward. So what we've seen lately. So are there certain sectors where there's no inflation? Because I was reading in the New York Times on Sunday, there was a big story about, yes, there's inflation in certain sectors and very visible sectors like food, like housing, like gas, but there seems to be maybe other sectors where their prices actually are going down. Is that the case here in Canada? Well, just looking at the latest report, what really surprised us, and it's a great question that you're asking, is that just in the month of July, you had 7 of the 8 major components which were rising on a monthly basis, and then if we look on a 3-month annualized basis, inflation was above 2% for all 8 major components of CPI. And when I say the above 2%, that's an important level because that's the level which the Bank of Canada tries to regulate inflation via the overnight rate.
CPI being Consumer Price Index, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So, as an economist, can you please explain that to us? Because we're not always sure what that means, actually.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so the Consumer Price Index is not maybe the most sexy indicator, but at the very least, it's the one that does track prices for all Canadians via a basket of goods over time, right? So it allows us to evaluate how prices have evolved over the last year, over the last month, and then it gives us an idea of which areas of the economy are maybe hotter or less hot on the basis of those price increases. So we've seen certain components such as we talk a lot about housing, the homeowner's replacement cost, which is housing is weirdly tabulated in inflation, but the cost to replace a home went up by about 13.8% in the last year, and that was the highest level since 1987.
Wow.
So some surprising stuff for the shelter component, but at the same time, mortgage interest costs are actually declined at 9% on a year-over-year basis, which is an all-time record too. So quite surprising to see that dichotomy right there.
Speaking with Kyle Doms, an economist at the National Bank. Kyle, what do you see? I know economists are always asked to project in the future, and it's by far not an exact science, but what do you see in the coming months? Are we in for this for a long period of time, or is there some relief on the horizon?
Well, another great question, and it's a question we've been asked a lot, whether inflation right now is transitory, that is, kind of temporary, or if it's something that's going to be somewhat sticky, or at the very least should maintain itself above the central bank target of 2%. And what we think right now is that, in the past year and what's led up to the current inflation levels is the fact that we've had very generous government support programs which have allowed to more than replace Canadians' income, which not only allow people to pay down debt, but also to accumulate some savings. So obviously they're spending those savings in the economy right now. So you have a large amount of consumers who are chasing a finite amount of goods. And we've seen major shortages in certain things, especially, with the supply chain constraints and semiconductors. That's caused, used car prices to skyrocket. We've also seen dealer lots be completely empty. And so I think those are elements which could lead to inflation remaining relatively sticky for at least the next, 3 to 6 months. But afterwards, we do expect that inflation should trend down towards the central bank target of 2%.
Kyle, I don't want you to get into the political arena, but obviously we're in a federal election campaign and all the parties are positioning themselves. The question I have for you is whoever forms the next federal government or provincial government, what can governments actually do to help to fight inflation, or is this something that's really in reality out of their control? Because they all say they want to do something, they want to help cost of living, they want to help people, but is that something that a government can actually do anything for?
Well, they have certainly an impact on inflation for sure, and like I was mentioning earlier, the income substitution programs, the CRB, which is slowly being phased out right now, are things which will, need to somewhat come to an end just due to the labor shortages that we're seeing right now, which are putting pressures on wages, right? But, you said that is there anything that they can do to fight it? I think that's more the central bank's mandate to fight inflation via the overnight rate. So I think once the central bank starts to get more hawkish, or at the very least more aggressive on wanting to control that inflation, that's where we might see someone actively trying to fight higher inflation.
So that would mean interest rates, right?
interest rate hikes.
Interest rate hikes. So that is something you're foreseeing in the near future.
I believe right now we're looking in the second half of 2022 for the first rate hikes by the central bank. Yeah.
Very interesting stuff, Kyle. Thank you so much. This was really, really insightful. I really appreciate you taking the time this morning.
No problem. It was my pleasure.
Kyle Doms is an economist at the National Bank. We'll check on your traffic in a moment. When we come back, we will have, as promised, David Birnbaum, the M&A for Darcy McGee, who is the new Quebec Liberals English language critic, and also at 10:35, we have Mayor Valerie Plante, who will be talking to us about different issues. We'll definitely be talking about the state of emergency. We'll talk about transit. We'll talk about a lot of election issues coming up. But first, let's check on your traffic from the CJAD 800 Traffic Center. Here again is Catherine Wood.
We have a problem in the West Island on the westbound 40. There's an accident, a multi-vehicle accident before St. John's. It's off to the right. Emergency services are there. You're really heavy now from before Sources to that point. And on the westbound Met, we have a left lane stall at Iberville. You have delays on and off from VO to DeCarry Circle. Eastbound 40 is Lake Côte de Lias to Stinson. The 20 is a good option in both directions. Northbound DeCarry, still seeing volume Queen Mary up. Inbound Champlain, there's some left lane road work going on, so you're heavy to board. The other South Shore spans overall looking good, but the outbound Mercier has picked up some right lane roadwork just around the start of the superstructure. 13 north busy from the 40 into Laval, southbound from Notre Dame out. Laurentian Autoroute northbound roadwork at Prévost causing a backup from after Porte du Nord. At Sports Experts and Atmosphere, buy apparel, footwear, and bags at regular price and get a promo card up to $50. Details in store. Next traffic report 10:30.
The Elias Macko Show, brought to you by The Brick, saving you more on furniture, mattresses, appliances, and electronics.